The war in West Asia is all about the Strait of Hormuz now. US and Iran have been ramping up attacks against each other to assert control over the Strait of Hormuz, threatening a return to an all-out war. Tehran believes that it oversees this strait and has signaled time and again its intention to levy fees on the vessels transiting the route. On Monday, US President Donald Trump sought to tilt the balance. He reimposed a blockade on Iran and even declared that the United States controls the Strait of Hormuz. Trump also said that Washington would charge ships for safe passage through the waterway. Trump is also demanding that Gulf allies reimburse the US for the costs of securing the strait. He specifically named Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait as countries that need to pay. The world has long considered the strait, which passes the coastlines of Iran and Oman, a free-to-use international waterway. Now both Iran and the US want to control it and toll it. Iran says that its parliament is already working on legislation aimed at securing the strait. Ibrahim Azizi, who's the head of the Iranian parliament's National Security Committee, he said that Tehran remains unwavering in defending its red lines, particularly when it comes to the management of the waterway. Iran's message came hours after the American president declared that US will be the guardian of the Hormuz Strait. Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi was quick to use Trump's own words to mock him and legitimize Iran's position here. This is what he says. Porters is absolutely right. That's the president of the United States. Whoever provides secure and safe passage of commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz should be compensated for this service. Iran has always been the guardian of the strait and will remain so forever. Araghchi then added 20% is of course too much. 20% was the figure that Trump hinted at. Now, Brazil's President Lula da Silva took a harsher tone here, accusing the US of turning into a pirate state. He called the plan neither democratic nor civilized, saying that it is abnormal to profit from a crisis at someone else's expense. Now, the new US plan echoes an earlier Iranian claim that said that it might charge tolls that could reach as high as $2 million per vessel. US has then opposed it. Hormuz carries close to a fifth of the world's oil and LNG trade. Any toll levied here, whether from Washington or Tehran, becomes a tax on global energy markets raised on nations who have zero say on it. According to the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, established back in 1982, no country has the right to claim international waters and all ships have the right to unimpeded passage. Still, both Iran and the US have been using tools to exert control over the strait and constrain traffic. All right, to discuss this further, I'm now being joined from Berlin by Dr. Volker Stanzel, former German ambassador to China, senior distinguished fellow at German Institute for International and Security Affairs. That's SWP. Dr. Stanzel, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks so much for making time for us and joining me here. And this is a question, this is not the first time we're asking this. We've been asking this question since the initial week of the war. Who controls the Strait of Hormuz now?
Well, are you asking who has the power to control it or who has the law on their side? I think the second question is very easy to
Let's start with the second one then.
You have quoted yourself the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which does not give authority over straits just like that in Hormuz, but also like Malacca or Taiwan or so to anyone, because that is the right of every country that is partner to the convention to use freely.
Dr.
So
Stanzel,
this is quite clear.
Yeah, Dr. Stanzel, there is hardly anything which has been legal about this, from the way Iran has targeted West Asian countries, and the war itself, which was started on a good feeling, Congress never taken into confidence from the US side. None of it really confides to any of the international norms that have been laid out. But at this point, when we look at the Strait of Hormuz, there is the military might of the US, making it the stronger party, and then there's the geographical advantage which Iran holds, giving them the advantage. So when you pit these two advantages from either sides together, who really has the strength to control the Strait of Hormuz?
That is a very good question. Who actually has the strength? As we know, in the United States, there is not much sympathy for the war, even less so for continuing the war once it had been started. No, American people would have their president to terminate the war. And indeed, Trump has tried to achieve that. But the compromises he wanted to achieve had not been reacted to positively by the Iranians. So there was no way to move ahead. On the other side, you have the Iranians. The Iranians suffer economically tremendously, of course, because of the war, but not only because of the war, but also because of the policy the Iranian regime pursues. So the Iranians must have an interest in coming to some kind of terms with the United States. However, as they now have the weapon of control over the Strait of Hormuz in their hands, they will try to use that strength they have as long as is possible until Donald Trump agrees to something, some sort of compromise like the one they already thought they had achieved not so long ago.
Dr. Stanzel, when you look at the Strait of Hormuz and the advantage it provides to Iran, it offers them the strategic advantage over this critical waterway, given their geographical proximity to it. It gives them autonomy over the larger West Asian region, given the way they are exerting control over it, and large number of Gulf countries are dependent on this route. And other than that, it's the advisor to the Supreme Leader himself who said that this is now more important to us than atomic bombs themselves. And also, this is the one waterway, if they are able to impose a fee here, it helps them offset the damage that they have sustained over decades of sanctions imposed by the US. In every way, you find them wanting to hold on to the Strait of Hormuz. Do you think any amount of military action can coax them into letting go?
You rightly use the word if they achieve this or that, because this is the weak point. Of course, militarily, the United States are so much stronger. Also, the Israelis might seem to only wait for an opportunity to also get into the war against Iran once again. And here, the Iranians definitely are the weaker side. Even now, they bluster and they pretend that they have the right to have their parliament decide on Iranian regime over the Strait of Hormuz. But in fact, they do not have the strength to really dominate the Strait of Hormuz, nor do they have the strength to resist American attacks. So I think it will not take long, and what we see, as I said, is mainly bluster. It will not take long after the United States starts attacking again, and they will seek a compromise. Of course, until that happens, on the diplomatic front, things will also happen. Like Trump has already tried to get the Europeans into the whole affair, into the war with Iran, where he did not succeed. But now with the situation as it is, with the Iranian trying to dominate the Strait of Hormuz, that might well happen. And I'm not sure whether on the margins of the G7 meeting, there has not been some talk that we are not informed about, but some sort of agreement between the Americans and Europeans.
Dr. Stanzel, let me counter you there. When you say at some point or in some time, Iranians will eventually succumb to the military might of the US, the war was on a timeline of 4 to 5 weeks, where 4 months down the line, Iran is sustaining. And they do not take longer than a couple of hours to start shooting back. If US targets Iranian assets, Iranian locations, Iran hits right back. And even now, is the early hours of the morning, we've been reporting of attacks that Bahrain, Kuwait, UAE, Qatar, they've all sustained, Jordan as well, Oman as well. So this is exactly where we were in the first week of the war. Since then, there was a counter narrative or the narrative which was coming in from the West, suggesting that this will not last, but it is lasting. So when we put all of that in context, how long do you feel one can still have that argument that Iran will eventually succumb?
Yes, I think this is the argument which really counts in this situation. And of course, you rightly go back to when Trump started the war. But that war in itself was illegal. It was against the will of the American people.
Agreed.
And he did not he was not able to continue it for too long. Then he searched for a compromise in Pakistan, negotiating with the Iranians. And this is where he will go back to, I'm sure. Now, about the strength of the Iranians that you make a point of, rightly so, because, of course, attacking Kuwait, attacking Bahrain also enables them to show their strength to the United States. But in the end, as I said before, economically, they're really in a difficult situation. And I cannot see that they're cruel enough to their people, but against the majority of their own people who are hungering and who are not doing well enough economically, the government of Iran can continue this kind of fight against the United States.
And if I would just supplement what you shared, Dr. Stanzel, till now, the Houthis have not really come into the fray in full capacity, because about 18 months ago, this is soon after Trump 2.0 took office, the Houthis were in a direct conflict with US military assets in the Red Sea region. The Houthis have the Bab al-Mandeb Strait in their fold, and that's a card that Iran has hinted at using a number of times in the past. They haven't done that yet. If that happens, it seems that Iran still has some cards that they've not utilized fully. So to rule out Iranian strength at this point would be extremely premature. Coercive diplomacy, will that work against a country like Iran, the way it has been fighting till now, leaving US and Israel largely stunned with what they did with Strait of Hormuz? That's a question we'll need to wait and see getting answered on the battlefield. As of now, things are right back where they were and only getting worse. We're not even talking about the nuclear program. Go ahead. You would like to add?
Yeah. Excuse me. Just a short
please.
Point. You're absolutely right about the Houthis. And it is interesting that Iran has not yet asked for their help, even though they have offered that. But the similar situation we have with Israel. Israel is a militarily quite strong power. And of course, they are sort of waiting to get into the fight themselves. So I think, again, we might be in a situation where we have a balance between the two sides. But I'm loath to go on with speculating too much here.
Understood. And fair enough. Thank you so much, Dr. Stanzel, for joining me. Always a pleasure. And it's always educative speaking with you. Hope our audiences also take away more than they came with before we had this discussion. That's Point Counterpoint for today. Dr. Volker Stanzel joining me from Berlin.
Thank you.